Hello, I'm Freddie,
I'm Matt.
Ashley?
I'm Jordan.
and this is the Possible Spoilers podcast where we put together our.
Okay, well, there's a strong
you don't have
second.
your prompt in front of you.
I don't have my
Insert
prompt.
theme music here.
All right, hello everybody, I'm Freddie,
I'm Matt.
I'm Ashley.
I'm Jordan.
and welcome to the Possible Spoilers podcast where our combined powers of clairvoyance may or may not be enough to spoil the upcoming stories that you're looking forward to.
And tonight, the story we may or may not be spoiling is Star Wars Episode 9. Personally, I think this is what Possible Spoilers is really all about. Because I don't know of another series that gets quite as many crazy theories as this one does. In terms of just fans just almost rewriting canon by themselves. They just will this stuff into existence. So I think this is why we're here. This is why we exist as a podcast. Is stuff like this.
Mm-hmm. Baseless speculation.
Absolutely.
So
That we will hold on to vehemently.
I think this is going to be an interesting one because with The Last Jedi, Episode 8, regardless on what your feelings of it was a subversion of expectations. And then with it being a subversion of expectations, I think it still parallels the other trilogies with Attack of the Clones and Empire Strikes Back. At least somewhat. There's some similarities there, but they have said that this is a course correction with Episode 9. So I'm interested to know if The Last Jedi was a subversion of expectations. Is this going to be a subversion of our expectations? Like, are we going back to what we expect, or?
Well, that's just a version.
See, no, actually, I think you bring up a really good point and something I'm really scared of because I still like The Last Jedi.
I do too.
Okay, so all right, good, we're on the same page. I liked it, but people gave it such a hard time.
Yeah.
And what I'm scared of is, like you said, the subversion of the subversion. What that translates to me is about 2.5 hours of ultimate fan service. And I'm not sure I can stomach that. I like the idea.
At this point, I don't even know what fan service would be because with The Force Awakens, it was like, oh, it's just A New Hope again. We've already seen
exactly.
that. And then with The Last Jedi, it was like, oh, they just subverted all our expectations. Like, that was lame. I hated all that. And it's like, what do you want? Do you want to see old, new? Like,
the answer is yes, Ashley. Star Wars fans want it all. They
yeah,
want every bit of it.
want everything and nothing.
Exactly.
Does there feel like nobody hates Star Wars more than Star Wars fans?
Oh, gosh, I think so.
It reminds me of that Onion article that's like hardcore Weezer fan has hated every album.
Oh my gosh, it's so true. No one complains about this stuff more than the fans. And, which I think is really tragic. This might be a different conversation, but because you're opening up a brand new expansion to a canon that was started when my parents were in middle school. So, like, to think about, so you have an amazing chance to start a brand new fan base, and instead all people do is complain about it. I'm like, oh, come on. This is the perfect time to change things.
Yeah, and not just an expansion, but a replacement. They scrapped all that canon and are now replacing it.
Yes, very good point.
Well, they didn't scrap the original trilogy. It's just the expanded universe.
Well, the extended universe.
Mm-hmm. Which, what is Coder still part canon?
Coder has to be canon because kyber crystals were originally a Coder thing, and they're still part of the movie.
Well, I'm happy about that because I love Coder, and that's probably my favorite part of Star Wars.
I think the official stance is that Knights of the Old Republic took place so long ago that it doesn't matter.
Mm.
But so many things, so much of the Star Wars canon relies on Knights of the Republic that it still finds its way in because they reference kyber crystals in the newer trilogy, don't they?
That's true. I think so. I can't remember where, but it seems like they do.
Yeah, I think they do.
And kyber crystals weren't a thing until Knights of the Republic.
They did in Rogue One, didn't they?
They could have.
I don't.
That's true.
I don't know.
The course correction that you're talking about is basically the basis of my prediction for the film, because there's two things that they can do here as a course correction, air quotes. One is I hope that they don't do. I hope that they don't give in to the kind of fedora wearing, neckbeard sporting people who have a problem with Rey as a protagonist. And I hope they don't, because the trailer has her, if you haven't seen it, in full Sith regalia and a red lightsaber.
Folded out double bladed lightsaber.
The Swiss Army lightsaber.
Yeah, the Swiss Army, the Victorinox red lightsaber. And
so what do you feel like they're gonna do with Rey if they go that direction?
I'm afraid, because there's also another trailer that has Kylo Ren doing a frankly super cool clothesline on some dude, like in the woods.
I feel like I missed that. How many? Aren't there only 2 trailers?
There's in one of the trailers, he takes a dude to the mat.
I swear I watched them both today.
He does it using his lightsaber too. Like he uses the hilt part.
Yeah. Okay.
And it does look
what
really
you're talking
cool.
about.
So my worry is that they might flip flop it to where she is now the bad guy and he's a good guy.
Yeah.
That was actually going to be one of my predictions.
Nerds.
Yeah, it actually it was one of my predictions too, but one I said I don't think they're gonna go with. It was just kind of like I was gonna toss it out there.
Now see, it's funny because I it's kind of scary because all 3 of us thought this, because I said the same thing. I still think ultimately, I think that the Sith Rey is just sort of, I think it's going to be a vision of what could be, because they've done that before in the series. It's just a vision. So ultimately, I think that's what it's going to be. But I have worried, jumping back to prequels, of that idea of balance and the Force, of bringing balance and, dark and light. I wonder if it wouldn't be some like messed up vision or even reality of what would happen if Kylo turned to the light side.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want that to happen. I'm with you, Freddie. I don't want that to happen, but I couldn't fight this idea of maybe in Kylo's story of redemption, if that's indeed where he's headed, then this might be how the Force balances itself out. And I don't like to think about what that means.
Yeah, I really don't think Rey's gonna be a bad guy, or if she is, it's gonna be short-lived. I don't think she's gonna like die in the end, or if she does die, it might be like a heroic death more than just like you killed the bad guy thing. Just because it is the end of the saga, or so they say.
So they say.
It won't be if this is still making money.
But still, as the air quotes end of the saga, I don't think they're gonna leave it with her being the bad guy, but it would mirror Revenge of the Sith, where that's the movie where Anakin becomes the bad guy. But that we also know, those are prequels, so we know it's opening up to the original trilogy. Mm-hmm. We know the rest of that story. They're not going to leave it where Rey is looking over her army or what, Mm-hmm. I don't think they are anyway.
Well, one of the coolest things about the original trilogy, 4, 5, and 6, is what you said earlier when you said that Rey might almost go bad, like it'll be short-lived. It'll be a short-lived heel face turn.
Mm-hmm.
Luke has a very short-lived heel face turn, because when he goes to fight Vader, he's wearing all black, and the audience is like, is he a Sith? Is he bad?
Yeah.
And as he's fighting him, his coat like flips open, and there's that white on the inside.
Yeah, and Palpatine's kind of like egging him on, like, kill him, kind of basically give in to the dark side. So there is that parallel where the protagonist does go through kind of a dark period, I guess. Their emo period.
We are kind of getting close. I'm sorry, Matt, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I'm with Ashley. I think, either it will happen and it'll be short-lived, or, again, I still think it could be that vision, because they have set that up. I feel like to put it in the trailer means it's a red herring. It's not, if it was like that, like if that was the end of the story, Or it might be a Princess Bride thing where they knew that we knew that they knew, and
See, that's what I'm saying with the subversion of expectations. It's like they know that we know that they know, so they're trying to do something that we don't know.
Just for clarification's sake, Christopher Nolan is not directing this movie, right? Like it's not going to end in an Inception type way, right?
Oh,
Is this an J.J. Abrams movie, or is it different?
Mm-hmm.
It is. All right.
See, that even comes back. That's his whole thing. I love Abrams. Ton of respect for him. I think he did great. But I do feel like this almost feels like Damage Control, because after what Rian Johnson did, and then bringing him back into bringing J.J. Abrams back to direct this one, I feel like that is almost a Damage Control for the series. Not that I agree with that. I just feel like that's how it looks.
Yeah, well, they're the ones that said that they want to do a course correction. We're just responding to that.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I like The Last Jedi too, but we're getting kind of close to my official prediction that I'm going to put on the record.
Let's hear it.
If this is the point in the show where I can reveal that.
We don't have official predictions here.
Well, that's mine are official. I still buy mine.
Freddie's had hits notarized.
Even after the movie comes out and I'm wrong, I'll still argue that I'm right.
Like any good Star Wars fan would.
Yeah.
They
can go back and CGI your ending and later.
So that's how it'll happen. I wanna see Hayden Christensen, CGI Hayden Christensen, and I want to see.
Oh, he's gonna be in it.
I want to see CGI Victor pooping. Because they felt they need to add that. Am I wrong about that, or did I hallucinate that?
What?
They added CGI creatures pooping in the original.
Yeah, they did.
Okay.
But wasn't Hayden Christensen?
No. There was a CGI Hayden Christensen and CGI creatures, and one of them was pooping.
Yeah.
And it wasn't Hayden Christensen.
We'll let you guess which one.
Gotta pay $50 extra for that version with Hayden Christensen.
Oh, that's the Blu-ray and the digital code and the 4K and the defecation.
The re-release.
Streaming now on Disney Plus.
Oh, anyway. There's no prediction. After that aside, we've already talked about, Luke's short-lived trip, kind of almost to the dark side. He's kind of straddling the line, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this movie is called The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, I did want to talk about that, like the meaning of the title specifically.
So, here's what I think the meaning of the title is, and here's where my prediction is going to be. Like, speaking of visions, is a lot of my prediction is based on what Rey doesn't know about Luke. Because we haven't been told anything, as far as I know, about what she knows about how it all went down with Luke, Palpatine, and Vader. In fact, I'm not sure it's ever been revealed that anybody knows too much about the fact that it was Vader that threw Palpatine into the core of the Death Star.
That's a good point.
In fact, Kylo doesn't seem to know. When he says, "I'm going to finish what you started," he's not saying, "I'm going to finish killing the Sith." He's saying, "I'm going to finish taking care of the Republic."
Oh, wow. That's true.
But I think that "I'm going to finish what you started" is going to come into play in this movie, and it's going to be a subversion of that expectation. He's going to have a self-fulfilling prophecy, but it's not going to mean what he thinks it means. Because Palpatine, we know he plays a role in the movie because we hear him in the trailer laughing. And when the movie is called The Rise of Skywalker, and playing on what these characters don't know, I'm going to think it's going to be a race. That the movie, to me, seems like it's going to be a race from both sides to basically we get to Palpatine. Because we see them standing there at the ruins of the old Death Star in that desert, right? And me thinks that Palpatine's just still bopping around in there somehow. He's just been hanging around in there. And now Rey, her mission is going to be... I never left. Her mission is going to be to stop him. And Kylo's mission is going to go to be to recruit him or use his power, find his power somehow, or learn something from him, because he's going to want to kneel to him or something, And so, but I think Rey is going to try to figure out, she's going to think that Luke defeated Palpatine. In her mind, it was Luke that did it, and she's going to want to try to figure out how. And in my mind, I have a big caveman brain who really wanted more of a male power fantasy out of Luke. I'm sorry. Like, I know what he did was very wise, and I know it was very, like, strong-willed, but I've grown up with this extended canon where Luke goes full Goku.
Oh, yeah.
Starts pulling Star Destroyers out of the sky with the Force and things. And that's just kind of what I got used to. And I know that it's definitely a big caveman brain. It's not smart. It's not cerebral. But I wanted to see Luke do something tough, like traditionally.
But he drinks the blue titty milk.
Well, I was wondering when that was going to come in. And,
there it is.
Yeah, hold on to your hats, ladies.
Well, I'm sorry, I gotta rant, but that scene shows who Luke as a character is. He like does not give any crap about what anyone thinks about him, and that scene shows it. That he just does that right in front of Rey. It's like dripping off his beer, and he's just like, you know?
Got milk.
Well, see, this almost plays into my prediction, because my prediction is Rey is going to think that Luke defeated Palpatine, and she's going to go try to figure out how. She might even face Palpatine and lose, and then try to figure out.
Are you sure that nobody knows that happened?
Well, I'm relying on it heavily for my prediction.
Okay.
So I'm going to be sure.
Okay. Just keep going. I'm sorry.
Well, Kylo doesn't seem to know, so I'm basing it entirely on that. And they can really do whatever they want to anyway. So this is what I'm predicting they're going to do.
So Kylo doesn't know that Vader's redeemed himself at the very end.
Kylo doesn't seem to know that,
yeah.
because if he did, then he wouldn't worship him.
Yeah, he would have been like.
Or if he did worship him, he would be a good guy.
Yeah, it would be like, well, I liked him before he went soft and died.
Yeah, he's never said that.
Yeah.
He's not going to finish what you started, because he doesn't know that Vader did the heel face turn.
Yeah.
So I think that she's going to even maybe she'll even face Palpatine and lose, and then try to decide that she needs to find a way to defeat Palpatine, and she thinks that Luke did it, and Luke's gone. He can't tell her what to do or what happened. So she's going to go on a journey, like a pilgrimage to places where Luke's been, to try to figure out where he gained this power to defeat Palpatine.
I kind of like that.
And there's going to be flashbacks in the film, visions of what Luke did, because she's going to go to places where he was a hero, because he's did other stuff. And this is where I think they could do this course correction, if this course correction does refer to making Luke kind of cooler, you know? Mm-hmm. We could see him doing heroic things, saving people, helping people, you know, and she's going to like hear all these stories of, there might even be people that like have like statues to him or something. You know, because I'm sure he got around before he put himself in, before he even opened the school where he tried to murder Kylo, as actual spoilers for other movies. And she is going to get really dejected, because we're coming out of a movie where she has just learned that in Kylo's eyes and in her own eyes, she's nothing, because her parents considered her that much. And she's going to get dejected because she's going to see this huge gap between her and Luke, right? And that's going to drive her to lust after power and to want power. And that's what Sith want. And that's what Sith do. But the cool thing about that is we'll actually get to see scenes of Luke doing cool stuff. It just won't be, you know, in the modern day.
True.
And she'll start to turn. But I think what will eventually happen is she'll get back to Tatooine, where Luke started. She'll follow his journey backwards. And then she'll get to Tatooine, which is a lot like the planet where she grew up. And she's going to see that his humble beginnings are a lot like her own. And there could even be people on Tatooine who still remember him as a whiny loser. Who don't know. Who
Can't
don't
hit
know.
the broadside of a barn.
Yeah, who don't know anything that's happened, you know?
Oh, it's kind of like Lord of the Rings when they go back to the Shire.
Yeah, and the
oh, it's so true.
Knows like that
That's
the whole Lord of the
point.
Ring went on.
And she's going to see that connection between her and Luke, and that's going to bring her back.
You Yeah, you thought about this way more than I did.
And as for
It's like very vague predictions.
And as for the Kylo part, when Kylo says, "I want to finish what you started," her and she's going to wind up there at the same time as Kylo with wherever Palpatine's at. And Kylo, in true Vader fashion, he's going to finish what Vader started by killing Palpatine. And they're going to do it. They're going to do it together. Maybe she'll loosen the lid for him, but.
Okay, well, I know how this movie goes now.
Okay, thank you for joining us for the podcast.
Yeah, so that's my prediction, and that's about everything I have to say. So I might be a little quieter for the rest of the podcast.
Okay, well, I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about Luke because my prediction was kind of based on him too. So, like we were talking earlier, like we disagree on how we see Luke in The Last Jedi. I liked his character a lot and what you just wanted him to be more. And one of the things I talked about was the only thing I didn't like about Luke was I don't think he would try to kill his nephew because of some prophecy. I kind of believe that this is what leads Luke to his personality shift, like why he doesn't like the Jedi so much in Last Jedi. Because in the original trilogy, Luke does nothing that his teachers tell him to do. I mean, he does some things, but like with Obi-Wan and Yoda, when they're teaching him to be a Jedi, like there's a part where like at the end of Empire Strikes Back, he finds out that Leia and Han and Cloud City are in trouble, and he's like, I gotta go save my friends. And Yoda's like, no, you can't go. You're gonna follow the dark side. I don't remember if he says that, but he tells him like basically you're gonna fail if you go and save them. And he goes anyway. He doesn't care about Yoda's Jedi teaching. So as a young man, like Luke doesn't really like his feelings kind of go above like this kind of stoicism that goes with the Jedi teaching. And I think as he gets older and he must fall more and more into that Jedi teaching, become like more stoic, less in touch with his feelings. And so that like that's why he's so willing to kill his nephew over a prophecy, because he's no longer in touch with like that part of who he was. And then like he has this sudden awakening of, oh crap, like what have I become? And that kind of makes him into this shrewd hermit, like that hates the Jedi. Like this is what they turned me into, this kind of feelingless dude that's willing to kill my nephew just over a prophecy. When like when I was young, I didn't care about that kind of stuff. So I feel like this movie is going to try to kind of balance out the philosophies of the Jedi and the Sith, where Rey might get a taste of the dark side because she's like following her feelings or questing for power, whatever it is, but there's going to be some reconciliation between her and Kylo Ren, where it's like actually some part of being a Sith is kind of good, like having passion is a good thing, and just having feelings is a good thing. It's normal, it's human, but where do you draw the line of you're crossing over from that into evil, where like the Jedi, they're very utilitarian and like they do good things, but they also, I don't know, they're just too utilitarian. Like they do things like kill people before they even commit a crime because of a prophecy. That's kind of questionable for supposedly the good guys.
Well, see, I like what you say about like there's some good, and I like this idea that you put forth about the idea of balancing the ideas between the dark and the light, because I would submit that actually that passion that, like you said, you tend to see in the Sith, that passion, I believe, is what drove Vader to protecting Luke and killing Palpatine, supposedly.
Exactly.
In Episode 6.
It wasn't anything that he learned from Obi-Wan or Yoda. It was like, oh crap, he's like really hurting my son.
Yeah.
I feel feelings about this.
Exactly, and that's a uniquely Sith feeling in that regard. So I really like that idea. I hadn't thought of it in those terms, but it makes a lot of sense looking back at what's happened so far. And I like the idea of that even coming more into play in this particular film and how they balance those out.
Yeah, I definitely think they're going to use like Rey and Kylo and kind of I feel like Kylo's gonna have a redemption.
I do too. I really do.
And like somehow like they're gonna represent like these two things that are balancing, but they're both good people in a sense.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing. They're good people. Luke's a good person. Anakin was a good person. Rey's a good person. Anything that would make them do questionable things is an ideology, whether it's Jedi or Sith.
Exactly.
So really, what you're describing here is the danger of ideologies in general.
Yeah, I guess blindly following an ideology, and that's why like Luke is so great in the original trilogy because he does not follow an ideology. He's like, well, they're my friends. I gotta go save them. I know you're wise, but I don't care what you say. Basically.
So how does that play into your prediction for Episode 9?
Well, just what I said I think that Rey's gonna get a taste of the dark side.
Yeah.
In that she's gonna have some kind of revelation. It's not gonna be as detailed as your prediction. I'm sorry. She's gonna have some revelation of where she realized she's like maybe gone too far or something, but that kind of giving in to her passions is actually a good thing, and she's gonna see like the good in Kylo Ren, and he's gonna have some redemption or something where I think it's probably gonna be like you said, similar to Darth Vader, where like kind of Darth Vader's redemption, where at the very end he's going to feel something very strongly and do something that redeems him. And
goes outside his ideology.
Yeah.
He's going to do something for himself.
Yeah, so I think I know there's been some, I guess, theories or speculations that, like Luke says, like, nobody really dies. So, I think Luke's going to come back and it's going to kind of guide Rey. Anakin's going to come back. Maybe even Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. I don't know.
Okay. I don't want to interrupt you, but I'm going to interrupt you because now I'm going to tell you what's actually going to happen.
Okay.
You're about to spoil the possible spoilers for me. This is my theory. You have really stumbled into what I think. I'll be honest, what I'm afraid very well could happen. I initially started writing it as a joke, and the more I wrote it, the more I thought, oh, dang, this might not be a joke. Like, they might actually do this. All right, so first and foremost, I think Palpatine is back due to some power of the Force. So we know that Force energy can allow them to interact, again, like we saw at the end of Return of the Jedi. We saw all the Force spirits.
We know
they
can come back as ghosts.
We can come back.
And Palpatine describes it in the prequels when he says, have you ever heard the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
I cannot believe you just did that to our podcast. How dare you?
It's not one a Jedi would tell.
How dare you? But no, you're absolutely right. And so I think what's happened, I think Palpatine figured out a way to make that sort of astral projection become a physical manifestation.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so now I think that's what happened to him. Now this is strengthened. So we're going to step outside the canon here for a minute and just look at the real world. This is strengthened by Hayden Christensen's Comic-Con appearance being suddenly yanked for no good reason whatsoever. It was just completely pulled from the lineup, right? So either that is a remarkable piece of sensational marketing, or they really don't want something to get out. Because honestly, why would Hayden Christensen even be at Comic-Cons unless he's going to be in this film?
Yeah, so I think he is. I totally think he's going to come back as a ghost or something. Yep. And like Rey's going to get all this wisdom from him and Luke and see that, being a Jedi isn't just, like your idea of what a Jedi is. They both had a taste of the dark side.
Balance. So now here's my problem, though. My largest issue with this type of theory is what it really means and what this says about the universe. Because the implications are that everyone shows back all at once in an endgame style battle between good and evil. And so Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Luke, Yoda, Mace Windu, the gang's all here. Okay. And so I'm scared to death because once that door's open, there is no telling how far they could step through it. And so, but again, it started as a joke, but I'm sitting here thinking, uh-oh.
Like I feel like it could happen.
It could happen.
Like, Samuel Jackson begged to be in the new movies.
Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah.
It's okay, let's bring back Mace Windu. You're in.
Well, if everybody comes back, then Darth Plagueis has to come back too.
Yeah,
True.
and Jar Jar Binks.
Jar Jar- Oh,
He
oh.
wasn't. Well, he wasn't force sensitive, was he?
Maybe.
We
I
don't-
mean, there's theories that he was the ultimate mastermind behind
yes, I've read that
Palpatine
theory.
rising to power.
That's a great theory. I love that one.
It could be that if people come back, it takes a large sacrifice, maybe like a Pyrrhic sacrifice, like one that's worth it's cost more than it earns.
Mm.
So it could be Palpatine came back because of all the deaths on the Death Star. Like they never really talked too much about the fact how many people died when the Death Star blew up. So that
True.
could have been like a sacrifice. But now we're just turning Sith into the occult, though.
I mean, weren't they already kind of that?
Yeah,
I mean, manner of speaking.
Yeah, I mean, I think they are like a cult because they refer to being a Jedi as a religion, and the Sith is, I assume a smaller portion of the Jedi.
Yeah, Han Solo refers to the Jedi as a hokey religion, I believe, specifically.
Yeah, in the original trilogy, they refer to it as a religion a lot. Like Vader's officers say it to him, and they never really mention it again in the prequels. But
so now I kind of wanted to move into a different part because, like I said before we started recording, I really have not dove into the larger political drama at play, because I think there's a lot that we, even in our theories, we haven't addressed, such as like the night that we see, the sort of Kylo's forces. So we see this big driving force. Now, obviously, we're focused on these individuals, but there is this larger political drama happening in the background, but it largely seems to be hinged on Kylo's mental instability. So I feel like we're going to see some of those larger forces at play, and so I feel like almost in my mind, I feel like we're going to see some of that fall apart when Kylo changes his mind and just moves into a different way of living. Because again, I do think he's headed towards some form of redemption. I don't know what that means. But I feel like sometimes, I feel like this is almost refocusing all the big stories that Star Wars has played out, all the big things they've looked at. I feel like this is almost like them bringing it back just to get a bit more focused on the individual characters.
Well, if we go back to my prediction, my big long prediction I gave a while ago.
Oh, yes.
Kylo, correct me if I'm wrong, and towards the end of The Last Jedi, he takes kind of sole leadership of those forces, right? Like he's promoted.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it could be that if we go back to this could fit into my prediction, is if in his blind desire to reach Palpatine and learn something from him or recruit him or kneel to him or whatever, he starts sacrificing his forces left and right. They start losing. Because we see at the end of The Last Jedi that the rebellion stays alive because it's an idea. And so that could be an excuse to still have rebellious forces in the movie. And if he's not focusing on fighting those rebellious forces, he's entirely focused on getting this power for himself. Then he won't be the leader they need, and he'll start losing people left and right, and he'll sacrifice them for an evil desire.
Very true.
It could be before he ever even does his heel face turn.
Yeah, that's a good point. So, call me crazy, going a bit off track of what we've been talking about, but let's move us into a different aspect of the Star Wars movies that was missing from the last movie. It's a bold call. I know I'll get mocked for it, but I think there's going to be a big lightsaber battle in there somewhere. A big, highly choreographed lightsaber battle.
I don't think
Call
so.
me crazy. Oh, come on.
I think you're reaching a bit there. I don't think that's gonna happen.
See, if you wanted, the way you wanted Luke to be, that I totally resonate with that, because I just wanted them to have one of the most epic lightsaber battles you've ever seen, and that was so missing from the episode 8.
Yeah.
I was so disappointed.
If we do my prediction and we really follow that rise of the Skywalker, and the rise of the Skywalker literally means that we get to see his rise, then the action of the movie will be mostly in the past, but we'll still have cool action.
It's true. That's a good point.
We'll still have our Goku Luke that we want.
The Goku
our
Luke.
male power, our big caveman brain male power fantasy that we so desire.
Or it could be Anakin rising from the dead.
Yeah.
Oh. It's true. So many
Matt,
options.
I just wanted to piggyback the thing you were saying about like all of the Jedi coming back for a final fight. You literally
Yeah.
described the plot line of Kingdom Hearts to a T. I just want
Oh,
to throw that
really?
out there. So like, you know, considering this is a Disney thing, that would just be perfect.
Oh, there's precedent left and right for this to happen, and that's what scares me. Like, that's the part. But again, if this is course correction, if this is, again, Ashley said subversion of a subversion, which equals fan service, then that means Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi and everybody's gonna be right back
Well, this is something I
here
meant to
fighting this
mention
battle.
in
And
watching
we all know how many people love Qui-Gon Jinn.
Oh, absolutely.
in
They're
watching
going to
the
be
second
cheering
trailer.
for him when he comes out of the Doctor
Exactly.
Strange portal.
It would also mean that Palpatine was telling the truth to Anakin all along about Sith beating death or being able to.
I mean, well, they can because they can be ghosts.
Well, Jedi can be ghosts, but the way he was kind of wording it,
They only figure that out at the end of the prequels. After Padme dies, they only then figure out that they can be ghosts because Yoda goes to Obi-Wan and he was like, there's a friend here to see you.
That's true. Yeah.
Or something, you know.
I'm gonna go ahead and say I don't remember this at all.
It's very
I do remember
sneakily
that.
put in there. Like,
Yeah.
you blink and you miss it.
I blinked.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like, because...
Blinking occurred.
It's true, and I remember that, and it bothered me because then that meant, because like, okay, so again, it was implied that Qui-Gon Jinn was back to help lead Obi-Wan, right? And then at the end of Return of the Jedi, we have all the, we have Anakin and Obi-Wan and Yoda, and they're all sitting there, but the one that was missing was Qui-Gon Jinn. It's like, okay, so do ghosts die? Like, once you're there, is there still a termination point for that,
I
or is
just
he
don't
just not
think
there?
Qui-Gon Jinn, like, cared about Luke.
Qui-Gon had run out of craps to give.
Yeah,
Like,
he
you
was like-
people have lost your mind. I'm done.
Yeah, I mean, it had to have been pretty hard for him to be like, oh crap, that boy that I really tried to get into the council and like I really advocated for it, like that was a mistake. I'm going back to the afterlife now.
Oh, deuces. I'm out of here.
He gets to be
Dips.
ashamed to his face, or maybe Liam Neeson just wasn't available.
Yeah, that's probably it.
It could be that. It could be that he doesn't. His ghost is ashamed, or he doesn't want to show up because
That's possible.
It's like you caused all this, Qui-Gon Jinn.
because that's actually another example of somebody going against the will of the council or the will of the Jedi because they didn't want him to bring Anakin on at first, right? And he went against, or he
because
he
Anakin
pushed.
had too many feelings because he grieved for his mom. Like, they usually take Jedi to train them at, like, as babies, pretty much, at a very young age, so they don't grow attachments to their parents. But Anakin had a very strong attachment to his mom, and they were like, no, he's got too many feelings. Like, this is, like, he's prone to the dark side. Which is, kind of also questionable. Like, are the Jedi really that great if they're taking babies from parents and not letting them form attachments? Which is normal human behavior.
Yeah, because you told me this before. We were talking about this yesterday, and you told me that Lucas originally wanted to base Jedi on Buddhists.
Mm-hmm.
But he
The
had a
Jedi
wrong
philosophy.
But he had a wrong idea about what Buddhism was.
Well, I don't know if he had a wrong idea or if he just changed it slightly, because, like, I guess Buddhist monks can seem very stoic, but I'm not an expert on Buddhism at all, but I don't think there's anything in their philosophy that really supports, like, blocking your emotions and stoicism, because, like, I do practice, like, mindfulness meditation, which is a part of Buddhism, and it's quite the opposite. You embrace your emotions and your feelings.
So if the Jedi had done that, then Anakin wouldn't have been Vader. I guess what I'm trying to say here is it's not Qui-Gon's fault, but maybe he feels like it is.
True. Actually, we all know it's the midichlorians' fault. Which
Absolutely.
actually, that's my
100%.
next theory. The midichlorians are going to become a physical character. They're going to aid everyone. That's what's been missing too.
We're the midichlorians, and we're
I
here
think,
to
no,
stay.
this is what's going to happen. Qui-Gon's going to come back, and he was like, I was wrong about midichlorians. That's not what the Force is. I just made that up.
Anyway, I just came back to say that. Peace out.
See, it just phases out.
Can I just say, like, I love the fact that, like, everyone hates the idea of anything like a midichlorian, because Dragon Ball had a similar problem a couple of years ago where Akira Toriyama came out and said the only reason that Goku and company can turn Super Saiyan is because they have a presence of S cells in their body. And the fandom collectively just went, that's nice, Toriyama. Just don't talk about that anymore. Like, we're just going to pretend like that's
don't
not
mention
a thing.
that ever again. We'll just forget you said that.
Yeah, like, we all pretend in the fandom like that's not a thing, just like I feel like most Star Wars fans don't care about midichlorians at all.
Oh my gosh.
I wonder where that comes from, that desire for an explanation of things, for a desire for there to be an origin of things, a source of things.
See, I think back to the first Thor movie, and I love the way they set this up, because it totally set the tone for the rest of the MCU. And they said some people call it magic, some people call it science. From where I come from, it's the same thing. And so that preempted like any other need for explanation. They didn't have to think about it. They didn't have to explain it. It was just there. That's what it was. And I don't feel like
that worked for Marvel until Doctor Strange happened, and then they were like, screw it, it's magic.
Yes.
Like, it's not technology at all. Like, Marvel wanted to do that at first, and it made sense in the Thor universe, I think. But there was a very sharp point once Doctor Strange came out where it's like, no, it's just mysticism. Like, that's all this is.
Yeah.
So
maybe Thor's magic is different than Doctor Strange's.
I like that idea because like Asgard is something else. Like, that kind of made a problem with the MCU canon, because then it's like, is Asgard like the actual Norse Asgard? Are they gods? Are they just advanced humans? So they never they made that plot hole and then they ignored it and just pretended that they never said it. So.
But I still think too. So again, bringing us back, I think that's the thing. There, kind of like what Freddie was saying. Why do we want an explanation so bad? I think if we can find those instances where it's like, okay, we're not going to explain it. This just is. Well, why did this happen? Because it did. And if we just let that ride, that's so much better. Because then what happens is if you start saying that, well, Luke is just the most powerful because he just has a crazy high midichlorian count. Okay, that's the dumbest thing ever. And that's just, he just won the genetic lottery. That's why he's the hero of the universe.
Yeah,
there's nothing special about him. Exactly, it's boring.
Yeah.
Yeah, we want a character. Maybe that's where my big caveman brain thing is coming in with the male power thing, because I want a character who's special.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
I want somebody who's exceptional in some way.
Not someone who's, like, special because, like, they were just born with a lot of midichlorians in their DNA or whatever.
Yeah.
It has to be earned.
Yeah,
it has to be earned in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he goes from, like, farmer who can't hit the broadside of a barn to, pulling Star Destroyers out of the sky or whatever it is he does.
Yeah, but returning to the midichlorians for a second, correct me if I'm wrong, but did they not try to retcon that and say that midichlorians are actually just attracted to the Force?
I think so. Yeah, I seem to vaguely remember something like that. They tried to get out from under it because I think they realized what they did.
So Qui-Gon was he was a victim of the science of his day.
Well, I guess because he takes Anakin's blood and measures the midichlorians. And so the science is sound if they're just attracted to the Force, and that would still be a sound way to measure, oh, this kid's got the Force. But it still seems kind of lame to do a blood test rather than just like, I can sense you have the Force because I have it too. That would have been kind of better or more mystical, I guess, than conducting a blood test.
See, I know I like that even in Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, he's like,
I can tell you're Spider-Man because I'm Spider-Man. I can just look at you and tell.
When you break it that way, that sounds so stupid.
The Spider Sense is one of the weirdest powers in Marvel because it just does whatever they want it to do.
Yeah, but that's pretty much the Force.
Yeah,
that's the point. I feel like it should be, because I think what we've arrived at is that Qui-Gon is quite possibly the worst Jedi of all time. Good Lord, this man is an idiot. This man's an idiot. He does not deserve to come back. He needs to stay wherever he's at. Because again, again, that whole thing of, yeah, it's stupid, it's crazy, there's no explanation. But if he was good, if he was actually in tune with the Force, then he should have been, oh yes, I can tell this is what's happening.
Yeah.
And
Like
So,
he should just be able to like sense it.
yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry, go
wants
ahead,
to
Jordan.
tell Liam Neeson that he can't come back then? Who's going to break that news to him?
You know what? I'm not sure that Liam Neeson is living in the same plane of existence as the rest of us anyway. So, I don't know.
Just stay where you're at.
Just stay with it. I think he actually thought he was Qui-Gon and he just hasn't come back. So, he's actually, he thinks he's dead. So, I don't explain that to him at all.
Oh, man.
No, they just make the phone call, and once they tell him, he's just like, I have a particular set of skills.
Skills.
I can get stabbed by Darth Maul.
It's like, okay, you can come back. Just stop scaring me.
Put the guns down.
Would Darth Maul come back if in Matt's prediction?
Yes.
Would Darth Maul?
Yes, Darth Maul
yeah.
would
I mean,
come
that
back
would be fan
to
service.
roaring applause.
Would he come back and actually get to be cool?
No, hold on. Isn't Darth Maul already back? Have you guys watched Solo?
that's right. That's right.
He is back canonically. He's
got
back.
He's got robot legs.
He's
right?
got robot legs. And he is
Yeah,
back.
he didn't die from that. Yeah.
Put the brain.
I have not seen Solo.
I
was
haven't.
one of the people.
Darth
who,
Maul is in Solo?
Yeah, he is.
Oh my god. I gotta go see that now.
So I've been meaning to watch it. But yeah, so canonically he's still there. But
Yeah, so he doesn't need to come. He's probably still bopping around somewhere. He's just,
absolutely.
But he's gonna come back for the battle.
yeah, he's
He's
gonna
just
come.
walking by.
Maybe he just came back to watch.
Heard there was a fight.
That.
It's been 40 years and he's been like just wandering the universe.
I'm just
Popcorn.
taking bets.
Oh my. All right, so guys, we are finishing up our time here. Let's put out some final predictions. So kind of like we did before, let's just put out the final things of how we think, like sort of the final scenes of what's going to happen. No real explanation, no expansion. Just drop them, and we'll go from there.
And tell me who you ship.
Tell me who I ship. Oh man, oh that's a great question.
It's quite a bomb to drop on us here at the end.
It is. I mean, that's a whole different podcast. This next episode.
We need to add that to the list of improv sins.
Who am I shipping?
That's like a super yes and. That's like.
Well, obviously, it's the astral projection of Yoda and Poe. I mean, if we had to go there, that's the most obvious combination.
All right, being serious, I think Rey and Finn are cute together, but I think now that they've supposedly Rey is not related to Kylo Ren, now that is open.
Oh man, I'll be honest. I've wondered about that one, and if that wouldn't play into part of the redemption story.
Yeah.
That is how it would end up.
They definitely had some tension.
She's seen him shirtless.
Yeah, they had some tension in The Last Jedi. And Finn was off making girlfriends with other people who died, but...
Maybe Snoke shipped it. That's why he did what he did.
What?
Maybe Snoke shipped it. That's why he did what he did.
So
he just didn't count on that it was going to kill him.
So
Yeah.
Kylo shirtless, is that what's going to drive Rey to the dark
No,
side?
Snoke.
Maybe.
Snoke could be the ultimate martyr here because he wanted Kylo and Rey together so bad he gave his life for it.
He's like, oh man, their baby will have so many midichlorians.
He's like, okay, if I connect them mentally, it will result in me getting my head chopped off, but it will be worth it. And really, what Tumblr user wouldn't give their life for their ship?
That baby will be jacked.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man.
Kylo and Ren.
I'm not sure I can summarize my entire prediction again.
Yeah.
Well, he said just give one final prediction, like one
Yeah,
final
one final
thing. Or just tell us who you ship.
Okay, Kylo will finish what he started by killing Palpatine after Rey loosens the lid for him. And I ship Finn and that traitor guy, the guy that yells traitor.
Yeah.
I think they're going to have a real big redemption. They don't like each other now, but give it time.
It will be like the proposal situation where they hate each other first, but they'll go on some adventures and they'll eventually fall in love.
Exactly. A romance will blossom.
Exactly. So I think what's going to happen, because I think Anakin is going to come back, and Darth Vader's going to be back. And I think he's going to come back and slap Kylo right across his stupid face for being such a little dork.
Oh, that's good. Oh, because if Vader did come back, oh, he'd be so pissed.
He's like,
be
this
so
is
mad.
not how I
Boss,
raised my
You're
grade.
mine.
You ain't no grandson of mine.
This is not what I gave my
Like,
life
did you
for.
see me throw the evil man down the chute?
I didn't even think about how that would open that up to that
Right?
interaction. Oh, that would be such a satisfying interaction.
Like, you just be like, boy, you've lost your mind. I couldn't stop thinking about it. Like, what would actually, again, if that door got open, it's like if they met each other, oh, he would be so mad.
Oh, that's a conversation I want to see.
And truthfully, to be absolutely serious for a moment, that might be Kylo's only true shot at real redemption. Is to have that kind of conversation with Anakin for him to go, oh, whoops, got that wrong. That might be the only way he can actually come back from the brink, as it were. So anyway, that's how it's going to end. Jordan, what's going to happen?
I think, first of all, I like everything everyone has said. Being that I know almost nothing about Star Wars, I don't really know what's going to happen, to be perfectly honest with you. I sort of think that maybe this movie is going to be about like the erosion of the dark side and the light side. Like it's going to be like kind of like you all were saying, like maybe Rey and Kylo Ren get together or something. But maybe like it's not going to be like that ideology that Freddie and Ashley were talking about, where like it's no longer the dark side is bad and the light side is good. So I'm kind of like expecting that. There's a scene in the trailer that I thought was really interesting where like Rey, it's a close up of her face, but there's a constantly flickering between blue light and red light. And I'm kind of wondering, like, I really think this movie is going to play with the idea of what is the dark side and what is the light side. And I kind of think maybe by the time it ends, maybe the audience isn't going to fully know what that is.
That's a good point. I almost wondered if this you really tapped into something I had sort of kicked around of like almost what if the dark side and the light side almost cease to exist and almost like merge into something. Now they'll never ever do that. That's the craziest thing ever.
Well, I mean, that kind of makes sense because if you're going to make a finale, like make something that kind of like changes the dynamic. And these entire movies are about the wars fought ages ago still having repercussions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
absolutely.
Actually ending that and maybe having Rey and Kylo Ren be the ones to say like enough of this nonsense and like, you know, we're just doing away with all of it.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I would kind of like that.
What you're saying, Jordan, is you're going to make the life of every teenage edgelord who ever made a meme about a gray Jedi.
Sure.
Yeah, I like that idea. I don't think they're gonna do it because if they do that, then that closes the door on all the movies of balancing out the light side and the dark. Because that's what Star Wars has been about, is this constant battle between light side and dark side, and one kind of causing the other, and there's never been any peace.
It also closes the door on so much merchandise.
So much money.
But, I mean, it raises merchandise as well.
They could just be like, there's a new third side.
There's a new third side you can buy shirts for and lightsabers for.
I'm calling it now, Episode 10, Order of the Grey.
Order of the Grey.
Last but not least, I ship everyone with the power of friendship in that final battle.
Oh,
yes.
So there will be no romantic pairings, but there will be much power of friendship.
Yes, it will be like the Frozen ending.
Rainbow lightsabers.
Yes.
It will be.
We all love each other.
The stinger for this movie will be the setup of a Kingdom Hearts cinematic universe.
I have one last thing to say before we go.
Let's hear it.
Jordan, we grant you a place on this podcast, but we do not grant you the rank of master.
I'll take it.
And on that note, this has been Possible Spoilers, where we have talked about the upcoming Episode 9 Star Wars. Let's leave your notes and leave your comments below. See if in the show notes or in the whatever podcast platform you're using. Let's hear what your predictions are. If you think we're right, if you think we're totally wrong. But either way, no matter what, we may or may not have spoiled Star Wars Episode 9. Thank you for listening.